Okay, hello, uranium friends. Happy holidays to you all. I hope you all had a good holiday break there, and we're going to get right into it because like we said in the uranium talk video that we put out this week, we're starting to see some slight signs of a possible momentum shift. So let's just take a look at the majors and see if we can identify what we're talking about. Okay, so URA has really just it's been trading in this big wide range for quite some time. But when we kind of zoom in here, we start to see the makings of a possible momentum shift. And what do I mean? What does that look like? Well, we have these inverse head and shoulders patterns that could possibly be playing out. But what are we looking for? Well, here's your shoulder, here's your head, and now we're going to be looking for a right shoulder at some point over here. It hasn't occurred yet, and this is not as clearly defined on the daily here with URA. If we might be able to see a clearer, yeah. So you get a clearer view of it on on this 2-day chart. So if you want to take a look at, here's our left shoulder, there's our right shoulder, our head rather, and now we're waiting to see does a right shoulder form with a daily high or low, and then get moving along. So if this pattern plays out, or if it starts to even look like even better, what are we going to be looking for? We are going to be looking for a test of this neckline here. So we're going to define this as our neckline up here at 2038. So ideally, what we'd like to see is we'd like to see this bottom hold, obviously. We'd like to see a test up here. And if it does pull back, holding this bottom again is going to be a great spot. So, like I'm personally going to be looking for entries in a lot of these names off of this right shoulder possibility. If it gets running away from us, then we have to take a look at it in a different light. But at the moment, that's the deal. I mean, there's a slight chance of a momentum shift. There's been some incredible bullish news in the past couple of weeks, but the broad market action is dictating many things. So if we take a look at this URI SPY ratio chart, we have a clear resistance line here, and we're kind of curling up a little bit to test it. So at the moment, for the past couple of days or week or so, URA has been outperforming SPY, and here it shows in this ratio chart. So we're keeping an eye on that. We want to see how it reacts over at this resistance line. Does it break again and pull back? As long as this low holds, we still might be in good shape for a little momentum shift. We can't say there's a momentum shift at the moment. At the moment, the momentum is down. It's just that simple. It's down. It's been down for a while, and it may very well stay that way. Our first sign, we'll see. Let's see how it handles this resistance here, this downward resistance that we've been dealing with. URNM, same kind of look, right? We have that little possibility of a inverse head and shoulder, and we have a bit of a falling wedge setup. So falling wedges, by nature, you see these bear breaks with no follow through, which kind of leads you into, hey, let's start looking the other way. And we'll get more clarity here on this 2-day chart. So again, we have this possibility we'll be watching of this inverse head and shoulders look to it. Shoulder, head, waiting to see how this next shoulder plays out. Here's your neckline, right? So there's your drawing of the shoulder. We're going to kill that. And let's just mark this neckline. The possible neckline for this is going to be here. Now, this is the 2-day chart. I have that on only because there's just more clarity here. So again, the nature of the falling wedge, you'll start to see these bear breaks with no follow through, right? Bear break, no follow through. Bear break, no follow through. We get a little wiki at the bottom here where the head is forming. So now you really have a double bottom here too at 29.69. Let's see. 29.72, you have a double bottom on the 2-day time frame. So listen, you have a strong little piece of support here for me to be working off of 29.72. So for me, it's possible that any entries I'm going to take anywhere in this area right now, I'm going to use 29.72 as my hard stop. But going back to the daily just as a quickly, yeah, so you're just seeing these wicks and these buy-ups. So it's still in a falling wedge. So you have a couple of things to contend with here. You have this 31 It's the actual number. Yeah, 31.99 as your resistance and your possible neckline. So, don't be surprised if it gets up towards this neckline area and maybe it pulls back to form that right shoulder and then it could be off to the races. Don't know. But that is going to be a sign for us that there has been some sort of positive momentum change after this long, drawn out period of pullback, right? So we've kind of seen this look before over here, by the way, right? So we have a little bit of a really turns out to be essentially a double bottom, triple bottom if you want, but it does have a little bit of a head and shoulders type pattern. So, and then it was off to the races. We'd love to see that again. Don't know if it's going to happen. At the moment, it's just a little bit of some signs here that there's a momentum shift. So another thing that we could look at is this daily 12 EMA, and it's gotten over it and it's closed above it. So we haven't seen that happen in since November. Okay, so it got above and it closed above here, and it lost it quickly. So that doesn't mean, hey, the game's on because it closed above. No, we have to see it close, backtest, hold, and become support. But for now, it looks like there's a slight momentum shift in the works. Back to the 2-day, the inverse head and shoulders momentum shift possibly in the works, but we will need to see a right shoulder formation. CCJ on the daily, same type of deal, right? This is a little bit less defined. You just have a multiple tests of this 21 area, this low 2120, 2120, 25. Just multiple tests here. But if you want to clear it up a little bit, we look at this 2-day chart and it kind of gives you a better look of that inverse head and shoulder feel, right? So you have your left shoulder, your head, and now we're going to see what happens at this neckline and what happens on the inevitable pullback. Do we form that right shoulder? So we're starting to see in the majors, in the very least, this type of pattern formation kind of shaping up here. And it's going to take a little time for us to see how it plays out, which is fine, right? Because we're in a very low. Next 2 weeks is probably the volatility and the volume is going to be lower. So we'll see how it plays. UUU on the daily. Again, same type of look, right? You have the inverse head and shoulders possibly shaping up. We have a neckline as our resistance. So it's going to be the same deal with most of these majors onto the 2-day chart. Let's just zoom it up a little bit for onto this 2-day chart. You just see these bear breaks and they're lacking follow through. So they're getting bought up. Traders may be working off this 539 at the moment. I don't know, but for me, we have a new key support, which is 565. And this possible inverse head and shoulders doesn't look so clear here on the 2-day. UUU just trades a little bit differently, but there's a clear, the psychology of this pattern is possible that it shapes up here. So it's obvious that there's a lot of buying up in this 565 to 587 area. So, we look to see what happens with URA and URNM and CCJ, and maybe the rest will follow. Okay, so NXE, which has had some relative strength lately. Again, your daily possible inverse head and shoulders is kind of showing its face a little bit here, right? So we just do that. Okay, so I mean, these are the patterns that we love to see because we start to get defined levels to work off of, right? So when we start seeing a pullback to this area, you can kind of say, hey, I'm going to hit this thing maybe. I mean, I already did. I bought some at 404, whatever, last week or the week before, somewhere in there. And I've trimmed along the way here. I'm still holding part of that position, but my line in the sand was 393. So, these are going to end up being like, if you get this inverse head and shoulders pattern play out, this right shoulder is going to be, there's going to be some low risk entries in a lot of these names with these patterns shaping up. On the 2-day, you can kind of see it. And look, this is what you want to see. We see all this buying up right here at support. So these lower wicks, they're better signs. These are little signs of momentum shifts. And you have a pattern now that could be forming that could help you affirm that, yes, there is a little bit of momentum shift. Neckline right at the 200-day, so it's easy to see where our resistance is going to be, at least in the short term. UEC on the daily chart is a little bit different, right? So it's just kind of V-shaped. It got that big volume, historical, well, pretty strong volume. I think it might have been. Let's just zoom out. It's some of the highest volume this name has ever seen on Friday. And it could be because it was in preparation for that the earnings announcement and the ensuing announcement of the strategic uranium reserve. But this is a little bit of a V-shaped recovery, and our clear line of sand is 302, but it's gotten over this red line, this 12 EMA, and it's now using it as support. So we really want to see the rest of the names in the space do that, because if you take a look at the 12 EMA here, yeah, it started to recover it, right? So now it's above it. It's closed above it. These are the things that we like to see. Okay, so yeah, this red line, you can see it. I'll kind of extend this up for a little. So yeah, it recaptured this 12 EMA and closed above, and that's a very good sign. So we're starting to see little signs of momentum shift. 12 EMA closed above. In the space, a little signs. This is Urnm weaker, and it makes sense, because when I start to look at names like ISO and Global and all of our favorites, they're not shaping up these patterns at the moment. They're weaker. URA it's closed above the 12 EMA, so URNM is a bit of a laggard here. And, depending on what good old CCJ does, URNM could be a laggard play for me. Now I'm really kind of thinking about it. So I have that inverse head and shoulders pattern. I have this falling wedge. I have it as a laggard at the moment. Uh, it's if I start to see other names in this, if I start to see CCJ and UUUU and NXC starting to make good moves, but URNM could be a laggard play here. So UEC and NXC have the strength at the moment, and we've seen that before. But I mean, that's the deal. We're looking for that momentum shift. It has not. There's nothing that says, "Hey, it's an all go" at the moment. But there are some slight positive signs, and that's what we're kind of looking for. There's a couple of things that are lining up. You get over an EMA and you hold an EMA, and your pattern starts playing out. You're good to go. So we'll be watching this ratio. We do watch this ratio all the time in the uranium talk videos that we put out every week. It's a Chart Guys production, and we're going to just take it from there. Let's see how the next 2 weeks shape up for us. We need to see some volume and liquidity, not only in the space, but in the broad markets in general. Happy holidays. Over and out.